You're sitting at the table. The whole family is there. And someone, maybe your brother-in-law, maybe a sibling, someone who always seems to know exactly where to aim, says something. Something small on the surface, sharp underneath, about your choices, your job, your marriage, the way you raised your kids, even though your kids are grown now, with children of their own. Everyone laughs a little too quickly. Or worse, the table goes quiet, waiting to see what you'll do. And you freeze. Nothing comes out. You smile. Maybe you laugh along. Maybe you just look down at your plate. And for the rest of the night, that comment sits there, uninvited, replaying itself over and over in your mind. Later, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, the perfect response finally arrives. Calm, clear. Exactly what you should have said, hours too late. If this has ever happened to you, and be honest, it probably has, you are far from alone. Almost everyone watching this video right now is carrying a moment just like this one, still sitting quietly in the back of their mind, waiting for a rematch that never comes. Today, that changes. In the next 22 minutes, you're going to learn 7 calm, simple phrases that change the way difficult people treat you. Not by fighting them, not by becoming someone you're not, but by using the same quiet strength that carried one of history's most powerful men through betrayal, disrespect, and constant difficult people, without ever losing his peace. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. Before we get into the 7 phrases, I want you to understand something that will change how you see every difficult person in your life. This isn't just a nice idea. It is the foundation the rest of this video is built on. The Stoics, ancient philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, did not see difficult people as enemies to defeat. They saw them as a kind of weather, something that happens, that passes through, that you cannot control, but that you can absolutely prepare for. Marcus Aurelius ruled the most powerful empire on earth. He was surrounded every single day by flatterers, by people who wanted something from him, by people who resented his position, and by people who simply woke up in a bad mood and decided to take it out on whoever was closest. And yet, in his private journal, the collection of thoughts we now call meditations, he wrote that he expected this. Every morning, before he even got out of bed, he reminded himself that he would meet people who were ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, and difficult that day. Not because he was pessimistic, but because when you expect difficulty, it cannot catch you off guard. It cannot control your mood. It cannot control your day. Here is the deeper truth the Stoics understood, one that most people never learn. Difficult people are rarely difficult because they are strong. Most of the time, they are difficult because they are afraid of losing control, afraid of being disrespected, afraid of being seen as weak or wrong or unimportant. Their sharp comment, their rudeness, their need to dominate a conversation, it usually comes from a place of insecurity, not power. Once you understand this, something remarkable happens. You stop taking their behavior personally. You stop feeling the need to match their energy, because you realize their behavior was never really about you in the first place. It was about them and whatever storm is happening inside them. This does not mean you let people walk over you. The Stoics were not doormats. Marcus Aurelius commanded armies. Epictetus survived slavery. These were not weak men. What they had mastered was something far more powerful than aggression. They had mastered composure. And composure, calm, grounded, unshakable composure, is the single most respected trait a human being can carry into a difficult conversation. That is what these 7 phrases are built on. They are not tricks to manipulate people. They are not clever comebacks meant to make you feel superior. They are tools rooted in self-respect, boundaries, and quiet strength. The same qualities that made a Roman emperor one of the calmest men in history, even while ruling through plague, war, and constant betrayal. Rule number 1, never react immediately. When a difficult person says something sharp, insulting, or unfair, they are usually expecting one of 2 things from you. Either you get defensive and argue back right away, or you shrink and go quiet with hurt. Both reactions give them exactly what they came for: your emotional energy. The Stoics understood something most people never learn. Between what happens to you and how you respond, there is a gap, a space, and in that space lies your power. React instantly, and you hand that power away. Pause, even for 3 or 4 seconds, and you keep it. Here is the phrase to use: simple, calm, and disarming. Let me think about that before I respond. That's it. Say it slowly. Say it evenly. No anger in your voice, no defensiveness. Just calm, quiet control. Picture this. Someone criticizes a decision you made in front of other people, hoping to catch you off guard. The old habit might have been to snap back, or to go red in the face trying to defend yourself on the spot. Instead, you take a breath, you look at them steadily, and you say, "Let me think about that before I respond." Then you simply move on with your day. Notice what happens. You have not given them a fight. You have not given them tears. You have given them nothing to feed on. And more than that, you have shown everyone watching that you are not a person who can be provoked on command. That, more than any comeback, is what earns respect. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we always have the power to hold no opinion about a thing and to not let it disturb our mind. The pause is where that power lives. Use it every single time. Rule number 2, make them explain themselves. Difficult people love vague, cutting comments. Comments that sting, but are just unclear enough that if you react, you look overly sensitive. And if you say nothing, the insult sits there, unanswered. It is a trap, and most people fall into it because they don't realize there is a way out. Here is your way out. Instead of defending yourself or attacking back, you simply ask them to explain what they meant. What exactly do you mean by that? Say it plainly. Not with sarcasm. Not with anger. With genuine, calm curiosity, as if you are simply trying to understand them. This single question does something remarkable. It takes the comment out of the shadows, where vague insults live, and drags it into the light, where the person has to either own what they said or admit they didn't really mean it that way. Picture this. A relative says, with a little smirk, "Must be nice to have so much free time these days." Instead of getting defensive, you simply look at them and ask, "What exactly do you mean by that?" 9 times out of 10, they will backtrack. They'll say, "Oh, nothing. I was just joking." And in that moment, they have lost the upper hand. Not because you attacked them, but because you calmly asked them to stand behind their own words. This is very close to what the ancient Stoics practiced through calm, honest questions, used to expose the truth sitting underneath the conversation. You are not trying to embarrass anyone. You are simply refusing to let vague cruelty go unquestioned. And people who make a habit of vague cruelty almost never want to explain themselves clearly, which tells you everything you need to know. Rule number 3, speak less than they expect. Difficult people are used to getting a reaction. They expect long explanations, nervous rambling, or a defensive speech justifying yourself. The moment you give them that, you hand them material to twist, to interrupt, or to argue with. The most powerful thing you can do is speak less than they expect you to. Short, calm phrases work best here. I understand. Noted. That's one way to look at it. Say these plainly, and then stop talking. Resist the urge to fill the silence that follows. That urge to explain further, to justify, to soften the blow, is exactly what keeps you stuck in these conversations far longer than you need to be. Here is an example. Imagine a difficult coworker or a stubborn family member insists loudly that you are wrong about something, piling on reason after reason. The old habit is to match them, point for point, until the conversation turns into a battle. Neither of you can win gracefully. Instead, you simply say, "I understand where you're coming from," and you stop there. No further argument. No defending every point. This confuses difficult people in the best possible way. They are ready for a fight. They are not ready for someone who simply doesn't take the bait. Speaking less does not mean you are weak or that you agree with them. It means you have decided this moment does not deserve more of your words than necessary. The Stoics valued restraint in speech as a form of strength, not because silence means submission, but because unnecessary words are often where our power quietly leaks away. Rule number 4. Use silence strategically. This rule is a little different from the others because this time, your most powerful phrase is no phrase at all. Most people are terrified of silence. In an argument, in an awkward moment, in the second after someone says something hurtful, we rush to fill that space with words, any words, just to make the discomfort go away. Difficult people count on this. They know that if they push hard enough, you will scramble to respond. And in that scramble, you often say something you regret, or you cave completely. Instead, the next time someone says something designed to provoke you, try this. Simply pause. Hold their gaze, calmly. Breathe. Let 3, 4, 5 full seconds pass in complete silence before you say anything at all. It will feel uncomfortable at first. That discomfort is normal, and it fades with practice. But watch what happens on the other side of that silence. Difficult people are often unsettled by it. They expect a reaction. When they don't get one right away, many of them will start talking again, often walking back what they just said without you even asking them to. Silence is not weakness. Silence is not you having nothing to say. Silence is you choosing not to hand over your composure just because someone else is uncomfortable. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that he did not have to speak simply because someone else expected him to. A calm, unhurried pause tells a difficult person something they were not expecting to hear, that you are not on their timeline. You are on your own. Rule number 5. Protect your dignity instead of winning. This might be the hardest rule to follow, especially if you grew up believing that walking away from an argument means you lost it. But the Stoics taught something very different. They taught that the goal was never to win an argument. The goal was to protect your own character, your own peace, no matter what the other person said or did. Difficult people often want to pull you into a battle over politics, over money, over old family history, over decisions you have already made and don't owe anyone an explanation for. And once you're in that battle, they can drag it on forever because for them, the fight itself is the point. Here is your phrase. This isn't a conversation I need to win. Say it gently but firmly. Not as a retreat, but as a decision. You are not saying they're right. You are not saying you don't care. You are simply saying that your peace matters more to you than proving a point to someone who was never going to change their mind anyway. Think about it this way. A sibling brings up, for the 10th time, an old decision about your parents' care or your own finances, trying to get you to defend yourself all over again. Instead of rehashing the same old argument, you simply say, "I understand you see it differently, but this isn't a conversation I need to win, and I'm not going to keep having it." Then you calmly change the subject, or step away. This is not avoidance. This is wisdom. The Stoics believed that a person's dignity comes from their own actions and character, never from whether someone else agrees with them. Winning an argument with a difficult person rarely brings peace. Protecting your dignity always does. Rule number 6. Refuse emotional traps. Some difficult people are not looking for a conversation at all. They are looking for a reaction, a raised voice, tears, defensiveness, something they can point to later and say, "See, I told you they were the problem." This is what we call an emotional trap, and falling into it is exactly what keeps them in control. The way out is not to argue your way free. It is to simply refuse to take the bait. Here is the phrase, "I'm happy to talk about this once we can both be calm." Or, if needed, something a little firmer. "I won't continue this conversation if the tone stays like this." Say it once, clearly, without raising your voice to match theirs. Then hold to it. If they escalate, you simply repeat it, calmly, or you step away entirely. Imagine a conversation with an adult child or a spouse who raises their voice, hoping you'll match their tone, so the real issue gets buried under the argument itself. The moment you refuse to raise your own voice in return, the entire dynamic changes. There is no fight if only one person shows up to fight. The Stoics taught that we are never disturbed by events themselves, only by the judgments we form about them. An insult is just a handful of words until you decide, internally, to let those words take your peace. Someone can raise their voice. Someone can say something cruel or unfair. But whether that becomes a screaming match or simply a comment that bounced off someone standing firmly in their own calm, that part is always up to you. This is not about pretending you don't have feelings. It is about refusing to let someone else's bad moment become your bad moment too. Rule number 7. End conversations with calm confidence. Every difficult conversation needs an ending. And how you end it often matters more than anything that was said in the middle. Most people either drag a conversation on far past its useful point, hoping the other person will suddenly understand, or they storm off in anger, slamming the door, literally or figuratively, which only gives the difficult person more to talk about later. There is a third way. Ending things calmly on your own terms, with quiet confidence. Here is your phrase. "I think we've said everything that needs to be said." Or simply, "We're done here." Say it evenly. Not as an insult, not as a slammed door, as a simple, clear fact. Then follow through. Stand up if you need to. Walk into another room. End the call. Change the subject to something lighter, if the setting calls for it. The words themselves matter less than the calm certainty behind them. This is often the moment that earns the most respect of all, because it shows the difficult person something they were not expecting. That you are not afraid of the conversation, and you are also not addicted to it. You do not need the last word to feel like you won. You simply need to protect your peace and then calmly remove yourself from anything that threatens it. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, yet he understood that not every conversation, not every conflict, deserved his full attention until the very end. Some things are simply finished once you decide they are. That decision is always yours to make. Let's go back to that family dinner from the beginning of this video. Imagine the same comment, the same smirk from your brother-in-law, the same room full of eyes on you, half expecting the old familiar tension. Except this time, you don't freeze. You pause, just for a moment. Let me think about that before I respond, you say, calmly, and you take a sip of your drink. Someone chuckles nervously. Your brother-in-law, not used to this kind of quiet, tries to push further, and instead of getting pulled in, you simply ask, "What exactly do you mean by that?" He stumbles. He backtracks. "Oh, I was just kidding," he mutters. And you just nod and let the silence sit there for a moment before calmly changing the subject yourself. No shouting, no storming off, no tears later that night. Just quiet, steady dignity, and something remarkable happens in the weeks that follow. That same difficult person, the one who has spoken to you like that for years, starts choosing his words a little more carefully around you. Not because you threatened him, not because you won some big dramatic fight, but because you showed him, without a single raised word, that you are no longer someone whose peace can be casually taken. This is the real lesson Marcus Aurelius left behind nearly 2,000 years ago in a journal he never even intended for anyone else to read. Every morning, before facing his day, he reminded himself that he would meet difficult people, ungrateful people, arrogant people, people determined to disrespect him in ways big and small. And instead of letting that thought discourage him, he used it to prepare himself. He reminded himself that their behavior was a reflection of them, not a measurement of his own worth. And he reminded himself, again and again, that his only real task each day was to remain the calm, steady, dignified person he chose to be, regardless of what anyone else brought into the room. That is the quiet power behind everything you just learned. Not 7 tricks to defeat difficult people. 7 reminders that your peace, your dignity, and your character belong to you, and no one else gets to take them unless you hand them over. If even one of these phrases spoke to you today, I would love to know which one in the comments below. And if you know someone, a friend, a sibling, a partner, who deals with a difficult person in their life, consider sending this video their way. It might be exactly what they need to hear today. If you would like more lessons like this one, rooted in Stoic wisdom and built for real life, make sure you are subscribed and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video. Thank you for spending these 22 minutes with me. And remember, the calmest person in the room is almost always the strongest one in it.